I'm Dave from Hector's Smokehouse, and today I'm going to do a review on the Primo XL Kamado. So I bought this Primo XL Kamado around about 2 years ago. I'd been using a Komodo Kamado for cooking at home and thought it was absolutely fantastic. I needed something for competition cooking, and the other one was too big to take around and transport. So I bought this Primo XL and had it on a stainless steel cart so I could move it backwards and forwards for competitions. There was quite a few things that were quite important for me when I actually bought this and why I actually decided on this model. First of all, there's a lot of Kamados that are around, and a lot of them are round, and most of them are around about 18 inches. This one's an oval and it's 23 inches. Now that's really important if you're doing packer briskets in competitions, or even packer briskets for home. On an 18 inch you're going to struggle to actually fit a decent sized brisket onto a Kamado. So it was really important for me to get something that was oval shaped and 23 inch. So the different choices that were available to me was, I first of all started looking at the big green egg. Now I'm in Australia, and for whatever reason we stopped importing big green eggs quite a few years ago. So that was out of the question. Also, the big green eggs are actually all circular and a lot more difficult to do two-zone cooking if you want to do direct indirect cooking. So then the main two choices for me was either the Kamado Joe, which is an Australian brand. It's sold by a big box barbecue store, or the Primo Kamado. So how I came to my decision, the Primo XL, that's actually made in the USA, so it's USA made. It's sold in more boutique-y type barbecue stores in Australia, where I think you get a much better service. I think that's quite important for me. The chap who actually imports these from the US is fantastic to deal with. Anything goes wrong with these, he sorts it out and fixes it immediately. And I needed to have the oval shape, so very, very important. In the Kamado Joe range, which is the other Australian brand, you can get what's called a Big Joe, which is very similar size to this and is oval. Prices are about the same, but the difference is the Kamado Joe, the Big Joe, is actually made in China, and it's sold from a big box retailer. And I don't think the depth of knowledge of those big box retailers is as good as if you go to a more smaller boutique type barbecue store. So that was the main reason that I ended up with the Primo Kamado, and so far it's been really good. It's obviously a lot cheaper than the Komodo Kamado, but it does a really good job for the price. I think it's excellent, and it's a really good all-round barbecue. It can comfortably do low and slow, and be cooking for maybe 15 hours around about 225F with a full belly of charcoal, and that goes really, really well, and very little adjustment. It holds its temperature really well. It can do hot and fast really well as well, around about 700 degrees F, so it's great for doing steaks and brilliant for doing pizzas as well. Again, around about 500 degree F, and you can get a really nice pizza out of this. So again, I can really recommend this. It's been really good. It won me first place in the 2015 Creekside Barbecue Battle. So as far as I'm bothered, concerned, this has been really good, and it did brilliant ribs for me in that competition. So I'll start by giving you the pros and cons of the Primo Kamado, the Primo XL, what I think is the pros and cons. So I'll start with the pros. Obviously this is a 23 inch oval. It's big enough to do a brisket, and with extender racks you can put 2 butts on the top rack, so you can do a brisket and 2 butts. So you've got plenty of space to actually do your cooking on this. It's made in the USA, so the quality is really good, and I've had no problems in 2 years since having this. It has a divider plate inside, which I'll show you later on, for actually separating the charcoal. So you can cook hot and fast on one side with direct flame, and you can do indirect on the other side. So if you want to do a reverse sear steak, you can start it off on the indirect side, so there's no heat getting to the, no direct flames getting to the steak. You can get it up to the temperature you want, and then finish it off on the hot side directly over the coals. So it's really good for doing two-zone heat in there as well. It's got lots of accessories with this, so you can get different types of shelves inside and cast iron griddles, so you can use cast iron for actually cooking on, or you can have extender heights and extender racks for actually cooking on 2 levels within the barbecue. It's really well insulated. Again, I've had somewhere in the region of about 15 hours on low and slow without having to refill the charcoal, which again, you know, with some of the other ones that are made of tin and metal, you have to keep changing, or you have to do fancy snake methods and all those type of things. You don't have to do that. I just fill this with charcoal, light it in one corner, put some wood around that area, and then it's good to go for the low and slow for around about 15 hours. And it's really good for doing all types of barbecue. Like I said earlier, low and slow, hot and fast, and pizzas. Now if I talk about the cons, and there's a couple of cons that I'm not as keen on, but they're certainly not showstoppers. This strap, and I'll show you this in detail, you have to make sure that this strap that holds the lid on is tightened up every season. It can come loose, and it'd be a bit of a disaster if it came loose when you're trying to actually lift the lid. This coating on the surface of here actually starts to craze. Now, I think a lot of people, when it starts to happen, think there's something wrong with the lid. It's not. It just, the surface crazes. I don't think it's a bad look, but some people don't like that. The chimney, so this is the chimney. These screws at the top can come a little bit rusty. And the other thing that happens is when you're actually lifting this lid up and down, you can have the temperature set on the wheel, and as you're lifting it up and down, this actually starts to move, open and close. So then all of a sudden, you think you're at a certain temperature and it's actually changed temperature. So you've got to be very careful when you're lifting this up and down, making sure that the wheel stays at the right temperature setting that you've actually got it set for. Internally, height wise, I like the depth of the Kamado. I can have the fire really low, and I can have lots and lots of different settings in terms of height for where I'm doing my grilling. In this you've got 1 or 2 different settings, and that's all you've really got. And this lid is quite heavy. There is a spring mechanism at the back, but it's certainly not as good as the Kamado, but you're not paying the same price as the Kamado. So it does a really admirable job, does a fantastic job. But those are the pros, and those are what I consider the cons. I'll take you around and actually show you inside it, and I'll show you some of the features actually on the barbecue now. So we'll start with the chimney wheel. You can see the chimney wheel on the top. It's got 2 different adjustments. A fine adjustment, which is the small wheel at the top with the small slots in. This is really for when you're setting it at the low and slow temperatures, the 225s and around that area. You can make very minor adjustments to make a difference, and you can have very small openings in there to let a very small amount of air escape, hot air escape. Or you can slide the whole thing to the side and open the chimney fully up. So if you're cooking hot and fast, you can move this to the side, and obviously it can get to temperature really quickly, and it can hold its temperature really quickly because you've got lots of airflow coming out of there. Again, as I said, the problem is when you lift this lid sometimes, that can actually slide back down. It hasn't in this case, but it can slide back down and move back, and if you forget to check that, then it can be a problem. As I said, sometimes this screw and the spring that it's actually fastened on with starts to go a bit rusty, which is a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. It's got this is a new thermometer that's been added over the last year or so. Seems to be a lot more accurate than the old one, and seems to work pretty well. It's very easy to see the temperature, and you can see it goes up to 700 F or 400 degrees C if you're in Australia or the UK. So overall, very nice, and you can see it's a really nice size. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the things you've got to be very careful about is the actual strap. So you can see the lid, you can see the base, and there's a top strap and a bottom strap that are actually fastened onto there to help you lift it. Every season you need to be checking these bolts to make sure that it's nice and tight, because if that loosens off, then this whole lid mechanism can separate, and it could be a real big problem. So every season you must make sure you actually check these and tighten these up so there's no looseness in there. Very important. So here you can see the spring mechanism at the back. This helps you actually lift the lid up and down, but they're not really substantial springs, but it does help. So you can see the mechanism as you actually lift this up and lift this down. It does work pretty well, but you need a little bit of manual effort to do that. You also have a cover that goes on there. So you can see there's a cover that just clips into place and covers that spring area up. Again, occasionally, if you bang this or ding it, these things can fly out, and then you've got to try and find replacements, which can be a bit of a problem as well. On the front of the barbecue at the bottom is the air intake, so you can adjust the temperature and the amount of air that's actually getting into the fire. This is very simple. It's a simple sliding mechanism that goes backwards and forwards, and you can set the temperature using that. So if you're doing somewhere around about 225, it might be a very, very small opening with a very small amount of air that's actually getting in there, so it creates that low and slow. so you don't end up with big flames. It's just more of a smouldering heat. And if you want to cook hot and fast and you want to get that temperature up quickly, you can slide this right across and open it up. The other thing you can do is if you want to use a temperature control device with a blower, something like the BBQ Guru, so you can get a barbecue or a barbecue, and you can get an adapter plate that slides into here with a ring on, and then you can put your barbecue on, or your whatever type of BBQ Guru adapter machine you want to use. You can actually put that on and control the temperature perfectly. Holds its temperature really well if you do it manually, but if you just want that set and forget, leave it overnight, get the BBQ Guru, fasten it on the front of here, and it regulates the amount of oxygen going in. And how that works is it's got a temperature probe which is actually sitting inside, and as the temperature gets too low, it blows in more air, so therefore creates a bigger fire, and as the temperature gets too hot, it starves the oxygen, pulls back the air, and lets the fire die back down. So it's a really good way of actually controlling the temperature. You can also use this hole at the front to actually rake out the coals and the ash when you finish. So this can go in here and can actually pull the ash back out. For myself personally, I normally go in from the top, and there's a tray inside that you can lift out, a grill inside you can lift out, and I just get the shop vac in like I showed you on the Yoda, and it's very easy to put the shop vac in and actually clean that ash out and suck it all out. So let's have a look inside. Inside you've got a two-piece building there. On the outside is obviously the outside of the Kamado itself, but inside here you've got the fire pit, and this is a ceramic fire pit that's inside. Occasionally this can crack, it's not the end of the world, but they've got to really seem to handle that really well at Primo, and if you do have a cracked one of these, you send it back and you get a brand new one. They're very, very good again in terms of customer support. So in here you can see the air holes in there for the air to actually come through and keep the fire going. At the bottom of here is a cast iron grate which the charcoal sits upon. So you just put the grate in and then load your charcoal on it. In this case I've got this set up with an accessory. This splits the firebox in half. So what I can do here is I can put the charcoal on one side, leave the other side empty, and I can do a two-zone cooking. So on this side I can do indirect heat and maybe do the reverse sear on a steak, get it up to temperature till it's at, say around about 125, somewhere around there, 120, 125 F, and then I can put it on this side where it's nice and hot and very quickly flash it over, get the grill marks and take it to 135, 130 and get a medium rare steak out of there. So this is a really good accessory, works really, really well. Creates these two zones, but equally you can actually just put this on all of it and cover the whole base. I've done that quite often. Normally fill to about here if I'm doing low and slow, and I'll just start in one part of it, one corner, and then I'll put wood chunks in different locations. So as the smouldering area actually grows, it catches and creates the wood to smoke, and you get that wood flavour coming into your barbecue if you're doing low and slow. But as you can see, this is a 23-inch oval, and plenty of space on here to be able to cook on. Real advantage of having the oval, differently to the round, is this two-zone cooking. I think that's a really, really good idea. But this is easily big enough for a full-size pack of brisket, whereas again, if you've got the 18-inch oval, absolutely no way you can fit a full pack of brisket on there. So what I'm going to show you here is how to set up if you're cooking indirect, so if you're doing low and slow brisket, pulled pork. So I'll set that side up on this side, and then for the hot and fast I'll show you what that looks like on this side. So for the low and slow side, this can be full of charcoal because you're going to put a deflector plate in. So there's a little stand. Now that stand actually holds the deflector plate. You can see small ridges in here which hold it in place, and then we've got a deflector plate then that actually sits on top of that, and you can see what that's doing is if you did have charcoal underneath there, it stops that direct flame from coming up and actually catching your food, so you can do the low and slow on this side. And then obviously on the other side you've got the charcoal, so you can do the hot and fast on the other side. So on the hot and fast side, I put rather a lot of charcoal in here. It's just what I had left actually in the hole at the bottom of this, but I put it all on one side. So normally I wouldn't have as much of that in, it'd be a lot lower. But then what you can do is you can just put this in. There's your grill, sat above the flames, and then on the other side you've got your indirect. So if I put the other one in, the other grill in, so on this side I could have my indirect side of it, or I could do the reverse sear steak, reverse sear it on here and then just move it onto there really hot and fast onto that side to cook off directly over the flames, and it works really well. There's then lots of other accessories that you can use as well, and this is an extender grill rack, and what you can see is you can put that in there, and if you've got two of these are additional, but if you've got two of these, one on each side, you could have your full pack of brisket underneath there cooking indirectly, and then on here you can have a butt on this side and a butt on that side, so I've done that quite often. If you are doing hot and fast, then again it's really good that as you've cooked food on one side, you can put it on here as a warming rack to keep the food warm as you're actually cooking it, and the same on this side. So these things work really well, but they are additional accessories. So another accessory you can buy is a cast iron grill. So if you want to get those really nice broad char marks on your steaks and on your food, you can cook on a cast iron grill. So to do that, you just take the normal ceramic grill off and just place on this other grill. Now you can either sit it on top of the ceramic grill or put it directly over the charcoals and cook directly on there. And then again, as you cook the food, you can, if you want to, you can put it onto the other side where you've got the indirect heat, or you can have it both set up, or you can put it up on the extender rack as well. But this works really well and creates beautiful char marks on your steaks. So I'm now going to show you how I actually light the Primo. As I say, I've got more charcoal in there than I normally would, but I'm just trying to show you for a demonstration. I've opened up the bottom of the grill and let a lot of air in, so that's fully open because I'm going to try and set it up for doing hot and fast. So I'm going to use the same thing as I've shown you before. So this is my map lighter. This thing is absolutely fantastic. So all I do is put this in, turn the gas on, get it going, and pick a couple of areas to actually start. So I'll show you what this looks like after a few minutes. I've warmed up a couple of areas now with the charcoal, so I'll just put the grates back in and then I'll leave it for 20 minutes and see how we do temperature wise. So as I said, you can actually put this direct on top if you want to and cover it that way. So yeah, I'll come back and show you when it's all alight. So you can see the Primo now is sitting up around 600F, around about 320 degrees C, and going along really nicely. Just take you a quick look inside. So as we've talked about before, this side we can do the direct heat, but we could also put the steaks over here or any vegetables or anything else and have that two-zone cooking. And this is a really good advantage of actually having an oval shape. You can't do this with a round shape as well. This is absolutely fantastic when you've got this oval shape to be able to do two-zone cooking if you want to do that. Obviously you don't have to. You can have the full grill going and do fully direct and have lots and lots of steaks and everything else you could think of thrown on here. Or you could have it whole as indirect and have a full brisket on there and some pulled pork. Very adaptable, very capable of doing all types of cooking. So I'll go through the final part of the review. If you're looking for a Kamado, so if you're looking for something that's going to do low and slow, hot and fast pizzas, Kamado is a really good way to go at a really good price point. If you're looking for a Kamado itself then the different choices you've got is Chinese made, Mexican made, American made. So you've got to decide which one of those you want. More importantly than anything is what type of food are you going to be cooking. If you're going to be doing briskets, you have only one choice. I think you've got to have an oval. And if you get the oval, then you've only got two choices really in Australia, which is the Kamado Joe or the Primo XL, so America against China again. If you're in the States, you can obviously get hold of a really big green egg. But then the other side is, do you want to do two-zone cooking? If you want to do two-zone cooking and you want to do hot and fast and low and slow, or indirect cooking, then again the oval is the best choice to actually get. So look, I can highly recommend the Primo XL. Mine's gone really well for me so far, so I've got no problems recommending it. I do love my Komodo Kamado, and that's my #1 barbecue, but at the price point this is fantastic, and I think it's better than the competition that's out there. So I could highly recommend you to actually buy one of these. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you do, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be adding more videos in the next few weeks, and please like the video. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.